Have you ever been camping and felt that primal unease when darkness falls? That sense of vulnerability, of being exposed? Now imagine feeling that every single night of your life. No tent, no sleeping bag, no flashlight. Just you, your group, and whatever protection you could create against the darkness and everything lurking in it. This was reality for early humans for hundreds of thousands of years. And here's what's fascinating. They survived. Not just survived, they thrived well enough that we're here today. Their descendants, carrying genes shaped by those countless dangerous nights. When I started researching how our ancestors actually lived through the night, I expected to find a story of constant terror and frequent death. What I found instead was far more interesting. A complex system of behaviors, social arrangements, and adaptations that turn vulnerability into a kind of strength. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how early humans managed sleep in a world full of predators, how they preserved and shared food without refrigeration, and how they transformed night from the most dangerous time into something manageable and eventually, with the control of fire, into an advantage. This story takes us back roughly 300,000 years to early Homo sapiens in Africa, though many of these behaviors likely stretch back even further to earlier human species. We'll look at archaeological evidence, studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups whose practices preserve ancient patterns, and recent discoveries about human sleep biology that make sense only when you understand the conditions our ancestors faced. Because what they did wasn't just about survival. It shaped our bodies, our brains, our social structures, even our modern sleep problems. When you wake up at 3 a.m. for no apparent reason, there might be a very old reason buried in your genes. Let's go back to those nights. Before electric lights, before walls and locks, before fire was reliably controlled. Let's understand what the darkness meant and how humans learned not just to survive it, but to master it. Chapter 1. Before fire. Let us start with something that's hard for modern humans to fully grasp. There was a long period when our ancestors couldn't control fire. They might have scavenged it from natural sources, lightning strikes, volcanic activity, and kept it going when they found it. But making fire on demand, reliably, whenever needed, that came later. The evidence suggests that controlled use of fire, meaning fire that humans maintained and transported, even if they didn't create it, goes back maybe 400,000 years, possibly longer. But reliable fire-making technology, the ability to create fire whenever you wanted it, probably only became widespread around 50,000 to 100,000 years ago. That means for hundreds of thousands of years, human ancestors lived with fire as an occasional resource, not a guaranteed one. And that meant many, many nights in complete darkness. So what did they do? First, let's understand what early Homo sapiens were working with physically. They were anatomically modern humans, essentially identical to us. Same size brain, same body structure, same sensory capabilities, which means they had the same limitations we have. Relatively poor night vision compared to many animals. No natural weapons like claws or fangs. Moderate strength, but nothing exceptional by animal standards. What they did have was intelligence, social cooperation, and increasingly sophisticated tool use. But at night, in darkness, even these advantages were limited. The archaeological record gives us some clues about pre-fire or limited fire existence. We find stone tools, evidence of butchery, signs of occupation in certain areas. But the most telling evidence comes from bone assemblages, collections of animal bones that show what our ancestors were eating and, importantly, what was eating them or competing with them. Here's a sobering fact. We find human bones with carnivore tooth marks. Not many, but they exist. Early humans were sometimes prey. Large cats, ancestors of modern lions and leopards, definitely killed and ate humans. So did hyenas, wild dogs, even large eagles killed human children. This wasn't rare. It was part of the ecosystem. Humans were in the middle of the food chain, not at the top. We were hunters, yes, but we were also hunted. Night was when this danger peaked. Most large predators are crepuscular or nocturnal. They hunt at dusk, dawn, and during the night, when their superior night vision gives them an overwhelming advantage. A human in darkness is nearly helpless against a leopard. You can't see it coming. You can't track its movements. By the time you hear it, it's probably too late. Leopards are ambush predators, incredibly stealthy, powerful enough to drag prey twice their weight into trees. So how did humans survive nights without fire? The primary answer: they didn't do it alone. They did it in groups, and they chose their sleeping locations very, very carefully. Early humans were obligate social animals. You simply couldn't survive as a lone individual, especially at night. The group was your primary defense, your early warning system, your protection. But even in groups, location mattered enormously. Archaeologists have found evidence of early human occupation sites that show clear patterns of site selection. Our ancestors chose places with natural protection. Caves and rock shelters, yes, but also areas with limited approaches, places where predators couldn't easily sneak up from multiple directions. One fascinating site in South Africa, Wonderwork Cave, shows evidence of human occupation going back 2 million years. Though the earliest evidence of fire there is much more recent. For long periods, humans used this cave without fire. Why? Because the cave itself provided protection. The entrance could be watched. The interior was defensible. Open-air sites are more complex. When early humans camped in the open, they chose locations carefully. Near water sources, necessary for survival, but on slight elevations, better visibility. Less mosquito density, often against rock faces or large boulders, reduced attack angles in areas with thorny vegetation that could serve as natural barriers. But even with good site selection, sleeping in the open without fire was dangerous. The strategies humans developed to manage this danger are fascinating. First, they almost certainly used a watch system. Not everyone slept at once. Some individuals stayed alert while others slept, taking turns throughout the night. We see this behavior in modern hunter-gatherer groups, and it makes evolutionary sense. The cost of staying awake is high. You need more food energy. You're tired the next day. But the cost of everyone sleeping while a predator approaches is death. There is actually evidence in our genetics and sleep patterns that humans evolved for exactly this kind of watchkeeping. Studies of modern humans show that we have natural variation in chronotype. Some people are night owls. Some are morning larks. In a group, this variation means someone is naturally more alert at any given time. It's a distributed vigilance system. Second, early humans used noise as a defense. Humans are loud. We talk, we make sounds, we create disturbance. A noisy group of humans is less vulnerable than a quiet one, because predators prefer easy, silent prey. Making noise signals, we are aware, we are alert, we are numerous. Many predators avoid confrontation when prey seems alert and group coordinated. We find evidence of this in the tools early humans made. Percussion tools stones banged together for napping make loud sounds. This was partly functional, making tools, but also possibly defensive, creating noise. Some researchers speculate that rhythmic sound making, even early music or proto-music, might have originated partly as a nighttime defense strategy. Keep the group alert, keep the noise level up, signal group cohesion and vigilance. Third, they use social proximity. Early humans slept close together, not just for warmth, though that mattered in cooler climates, but for collective defense. A tightly grouped cluster of humans is harder to attack than scattered individuals. The predator can't isolate a single target. Any attack alerts the entire group immediately. This might seem like common sense, but it had profound implications. It meant early humans had virtually no privacy, no personal space. Your sleeping body was pressed against others. You heard every sound they made, smelled them, felt them move. This level of physical intimacy for modern Western cultures would be intolerable. For early humans, it was survival. But even with all these strategies, nights before reliable fire were simply dangerous. Mortality rates, especially for children and elderly, were significantly higher than they became once fire was mastered. Infant mortality was probably over 40 to 50%, and nighttime predation was part of that. The fear of the dark that many humans feel, especially children, isn't irrational. It's evolutionary memory. For hundreds of thousands of years, darkness meant danger. The children who were appropriately afraid of darkness, who stayed close to adults, who didn't wander off at night, those children survived to pass on their genes. The ones who weren't afraid didn't. You and I carry those genes. When you feel uneasy in darkness, when you instinctively want light or company, you're experiencing an adaptation that kept your ancestors alive. But humans didn't just cower in fear. They were problem-solving and they were learning. And one of the most important problems they solved was, what happens after dark when you can't see to do anything? For a diurnal species like humans, losing daylight means losing productivity. You can't gather food, can't make tools, can't see to do much of anything useful. Darkness is dead time, unless you use it for something else, something that doesn't require light. Sleep, obviously, but also socializing, storytelling, planning. This is speculation, but it's informed speculation based on anthropological observations. Modern hunter-gatherer groups spend significant evening and night hours in social activities. They tell stories, they share information, they strengthen social bonds. This behavior is nearly universal across cultures. Why would this emerge? Because nighttime, especially before fire, was when the group had to be together anyway for safety. You couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do individual tasks. So the time became social by necessity. This might be when complex language really flourished. During the day, you could point, you could demonstrate, you could communicate with limited language. But in darkness or near darkness, vocal communication becomes primary. You can't point at what you mean, you have to describe it. This creates pressure for more sophisticated language. Some anthropologists argue that the nightly gathering, enforced by the danger of darkness, was crucial for developing human social complexity. It was the time when knowledge was shared, when group cohesion was reinforced, when cultural transmission happened. Think about it. During the day, individuals or small groups might spread out to forage or hunt. But every night, everyone came back together. That daily reunion, forced by the need for collective defense against nighttime dangers, created a rhythm of dispersal and gathering that structured early human life. And in those gatherings, sitting close together in the darkness, humans became more human. They developed richer language, more complex social rules, stronger emotional bonds. The night, despite its dangers, became the crucible for human culture. But it was still dangerous. It was still limiting. And eventually, humans discovered something that would change everything. They learned not just to use fire, but to control it. Before we get to that revolution, though, we need to understand two other crucial aspects of early human life: what they ate and how they dealt with the fact that food doesn't keep. Chapter 2. Dangerous Darkness. Let's dig deeper into what made night so dangerous, because understanding the specific threats helps us understand the specific adaptations humans developed. The predators that early humans faced weren't the same species we have today, but they were similar. In Africa 300,000 years ago, there were multiple large cat species, various leopards, saber-toothed cats, ancestors of modern lions. There were hyenas, larger and more aggressive than modern species. There were wild dogs that hunted in packs. And in some regions, there were bears and other large carnivores. Each of these posed different threats and required different defensive strategies. Leopards were probably the most consistent danger. Modern leopards still occasionally kill humans, and ancient leopards were similar in behavior, solitary ambush hunters that preferred to attack at night or twilight. A leopard can kill a human silently and quickly, dragging the body into a tree before anyone realizes what happened. Archaeological evidence supports this threat. We found early human and pre-human skulls with puncture marks that match leopard canine spacing. One famous case is the Tong child, an early hominin from South Africa, whose skull shows evidence of having been killed by an eagle. But similar leopard predation evidence exists for various human ancestors. The leopard threat explains several human behaviors. Our tendency to sleep elevated when possible, climbing into trees. Using rock shelters with elevated sleeping areas makes sense as leopard avoidance. Leopards can climb, but they prefer ground-level attacks. An elevated sleeping position gives you precious seconds of warning. It also explains our fear response to certain visual patterns. Humans have an instinctive fear reaction to the pattern of spots or rosettes like those on a leopard's coat, and to the shape of crouching cats. This fear is present even in people who've never seen a big cat, suggesting it's hardwired from evolutionary pressure. Lions posed a different challenge. They're social hunters, working in groups, active at dawn and dusk, but also during night. A pride of lions could potentially overwhelm even a large group of humans, especially humans without fire or sophisticated weapons. The lion threat likely reinforced group cohesion. A lone human is easy prey. 2 or 3 humans are manageable. But 10 or 15 humans, armed with rocks and sticks, making noise, coordinating defense, that's a different proposition. Most lions prefer easier prey. There's an interesting parallel here with modern observations. When researchers tracked lion attacks on humans in Africa, they found that most victims were alone or in very small groups. Large groups were rarely attacked. The same principle almost certainly applied to early humans. Hyenas are underestimated as a threat, but they're formidable predators. Ancient hyenas were even larger and more powerful than modern species. They hunt in packs, they're highly intelligent, and crucially, they're bone crushers. Their jaws can bite through large bones to access marrow. This meant that even if early humans successfully defended against an attack, if hyenas got the body, there might be nothing left. Hyenas could and did scavenge human remains, and they wouldn't hesitate to attack vulnerable humans' children, elderly, injured individuals, or anyone caught alone at night. The hyena threat might explain human burial practices. Even very early humans show evidence of at least rudimentary treatment of dead bodies, sometimes burying them, sometimes placing rocks over them. This is usually interpreted as having spiritual or emotional meaning, which is probably true. But it also had a practical component, preventing scavengers from desecrating the body. Wild dogs hunted in packs and were persistent pursuit predators. They're less likely to attack healthy adult humans in groups, but a child who wandered too far from camp, an elderly person moving slowly, these were potentially vulnerable. The strategy against wild dogs was noise and threat display. Wild dogs are intelligent and risk-averse. A group of humans shouting, throwing rocks, presenting a united front, that's usually enough to deter them. But at night, when humans couldn't see the dogs approaching, when they couldn't coordinate defense effectively, vulnerability increased. Then there were the reptilian threats. Large constrictors, pythons in Africa, though less common in human-occupied areas. Crocodiles near water sources. These aren't predators that hunt humans preferentially, but opportunistically. They would take a human if the chance arose, especially at night near water. The crocodile threat meant that water access at night was dangerous. You needed water, but fetching it after dark could be fatal. This created a strategic problem. Humans needed to ensure water supplies before nightfall or accept significant risk. Beyond predators, there were other nighttime dangers. Venomous snakes are often nocturnal or crepuscular. Stumbling on one in darkness could mean a fatal bite. Scorpions, spiders, other venomous arthropods. These pose greater danger when you can't see them. Then there's the simple danger of the environment itself. Without light, you can trip, fall, injure yourself. A broken ankle in a pre-modern context is potentially fatal. You can't keep up with the group. You can't forage effectively. You become vulnerable. So humans developed extreme conservatism about nighttime movement. You simply didn't move around at night unless absolutely necessary. You stayed in your safe location. You remained with your group. You waited for dawn. This created constraints. If your camp was in one location, that's where you stayed from dusk until dawn, potentially 10 to 14 hours, depending on season and latitude. You couldn't respond to opportunities, seeing game animals, or threats approaching rival group that arose during darkness. It also meant that site selection was crucial and somewhat permanent. You couldn't just camp anywhere. You needed a defensible location, which meant you returned to the same locations repeatedly. Archaeology shows this. Early human sites show evidence of repeated occupation, sometimes over thousands of years. These semi-permanent camping locations became focal points for human activity. You might range widely during the day, but you always returned to the safe sleep site at night. This created something like a home base, a concept that became fundamental to human social organization. But the darkness wasn't just physically dangerous. There's good reason to believe it was psychologically stressful. Humans rely heavily on vision. Something like 30% of our brain's cortex is dedicated to visual processing. When darkness comes, we lose our primary sense. We become disoriented, uncertain, vulnerable. This is inherently stressful. Modern studies show that humans deprived of visual input experience increased anxiety, elevated stress hormones, difficulty maintaining calm. For early humans experiencing this every night, the psychological toll must have been significant. This might explain why humans universally fear darkness, especially in childhood. It's not cultural, it crosses all societies. Children fear the dark, even when raised in safe, modern environments. This fear likely served a survival function. Children who stayed close to adults in darkness survived. Those who wandered didn't. It might also explain human psychological responses to isolation at night. People who are alone at night often report feeling watched, sensing presences, hearing sounds. These might be evolutionary adaptations, false alarms that keep you alert rather than relaxed and vulnerable. The darkness also created enforced intimacy. You couldn't separate from the group. Personal space, privacy, solitude, these simply weren't options. You slept body to body with others. You heard every sound they made, every breath, every movement. For modern people used to privacy, this sounds intolerable. But for early humans, it was normal. And more than that, it was how social bonds were formed and maintained. The enforced closeness of nighttime created intimacy, trust, interdependence. There is an interesting flip side to all of this danger. Night became sacred time in many human cultures. The darkness that was so dangerous also became associated with mystery, with the spirit world, with altered consciousness. Many human societies developed night rituals, night ceremonies, special social and spiritual practices that happened after dark. This might have originated pragmatically. You're awake. It's dark. You can't do much else, so you engage in social bonding activities. But it evolved into something more, a recognition that nighttime was different, special, set apart from ordinary waking life. The interplay between fear and sacredness, between danger and intimacy, between vulnerability and social bonding. This characterized early human experience of night. It wasn't just one thing. It was complex, multi-layered, fundamental to what made humans human. And all of this existed in the context of another basic need: food. What you ate, how you got it, how you preserved it, how you shared it. These questions structured human life as much as the dangers of darkness did. Let's turn to that now. What early humans ate, and how they managed food in a world without refrigeration, without preservatives, without any of the technologies we take for granted. Chapter 3. Group sleeping. The archaeological and anthropological evidence makes something clear. Early humans didn't sleep like modern people in individual beds with personal space. They slept in groups, pressed together, in specific social arrangements that served both practical and social functions. Let's understand how this actually worked. Modern hunter-gatherer groups, whose practices might reflect ancient patterns, show consistent sleeping arrangements. The Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Southern Africa, various groups in Southeast Asia and South America, despite being geographically separated, they show similar patterns. Typically, a group of 20 to 40 people would sleep in a roughly circular arrangement around a central fire. Once fire was controlled, but we'll get to that. Family units clustered together, parents with children, usually with the youngest children between the parents. Extended family members sleep nearby. Unmarried young adults often sleep on the periphery. This arrangement isn't random. It reflects both defensive strategy and social structure. The children in the center are the most vulnerable and the most valuable to the group's survival. They're protected by multiple layers: their parents, then extended family, then the outer ring of young adults who are most capable of responding to threats. This layered defense means that any predator approaching from outside would first encounter the most alert, most physically capable individuals. The alarm would be raised. The whole group would wake. The children would be behind multiple layers of protection. But there's more to it than just a fence. The arrangement also reflects social relationships and status. Where you sleep relative to others signals your role in the group. Elders might sleep in preferred spots, perhaps slightly elevated or closer to the best windbreak. Young families with infants might sleep in the most protected interior positions. These sleeping arrangements weren't just about one night. They were consistent, night after night, creating spatial patterns that reinforced social patterns. You knew your place literally within the group structure. The physical closeness had multiple functions beyond defense. In cool or cold climates, shared body heat was crucial for survival. Human bodies generate significant heat, about 100 watts per person. 10 people sleeping close together create 1,000 watts of heat, enough to significantly warm a shared space. Studies of traditional peoples sleeping in cold conditions show they can maintain comfortable body temperature without clothing or external heat sources, simply through group sleeping and shared body warmth. This is how humans survived Ice Age conditions before sophisticated clothing or heated shelters. But even in warm climates where temperature regulation wasn't the issue, group sleeping persisted. Why? Because the social and psychological benefits were significant. Sleeping close to others creates bonding. Physical proximity, especially during the vulnerable state of sleep, generates trust and intimacy. Mothers and infants sleeping together facilitates breastfeeding, temperature regulation, and emotional bonding. Partners sleeping together strengthens pair bonds. Extended family sleeping nearby maintains intergenerational connections. There's also evidence that group sleeping helps regulate sleep itself. Humans are social sleepers. Our sleep patterns influence and are influenced by those around us. When one person stirs or wakes, others often do too. This seems like it would be disruptive, but it actually creates a watch-keeping pattern. Research on sleep patterns in modern hunter-gatherers shows something fascinating. In a group, people naturally sleep and wake at different times throughout the night. At any given moment, 30 to 40% of the group might be awake or in light sleep. This creates continuous vigilance without anyone having to stay deliberately awake all night. It's a distributed guard system built into our sleep biology. Some people are naturally light sleepers, some deep sleepers. Some wake in early night, some in late night. In a group, this variation means someone is always somewhat alert. This might explain why humans don't sleep as soundly as many other mammals. We cycle through stages more frequently. We wake more easily. We have lighter sleep overall. In modern contexts, this seems like a bug. It's why we wake at 3 a.m. for no reason. Why sounds disturb us. Why we're such light sleepers compared to, say, dogs or cats. But in evolutionary context, it was a feature. Light, easily disturbed sleep meant you could respond quickly to threats. The cost was less restful sleep, but the benefit was survival. The physical arrangement also facilitated communication. Sleeping close enough to touch meant you could wake someone silently by touching them. This allowed for communication without noise, crucial if you detected a predator and needed to alert others without alerting the threat. Modern recreations of early human sleeping conditions, done by anthropologists and archaeologists trying to understand the practical realities, consistently report that group sleeping changes the experience dramatically compared to modern individual sleeping. People report feeling safer, even when intellectually they know they're not in danger. The presence of others is psychologically comforting at a level deeper than conscious thought. They also report sleeping differently, waking more frequently, but not feeling less rested, being more aware of subtle sounds and movements, having a different quality of sleep. This suggests that modern sleeping practices alone, in dark, quiet rooms, for uninterrupted 8-hour blocks, might actually be unusual by human evolutionary standards. For hundreds of thousands of years, we slept differently. Our sleep biology evolved for group sleeping, for lighter sleep, for frequent waking. This might explain modern sleep problems. Insomnia, difficulty falling asleep, middle of the night waking, these are epidemic in modern societies. Maybe these aren't disorders. Maybe they're normal human sleep patterns that don't fit modern sleeping arrangements. There's some evidence for this. Studies show that people who co-sleep, whether with partners, family members, or in communal arrangements, often report better sleep quality and less insomnia. The presence of others seems to regulate sleep in ways we're only beginning to understand. The sleeping arrangements also created acoustic environments. Groups sleeping together make noise, breathing, snoring, movements, occasionally talking in sleep. This might seem disruptive, but it creates a sound environment that masks individual noises and provides acoustic camouflage against predators listening for vulnerable prey. A group of humans makes enough sound that approaching predators can hear them from a distance and know there is a large group present. Individual noises, a cough, a child crying, are absorbed into the general sound of the group rather than standing out as isolated vulnerability signals. There were rules about sleep, though these were probably more customary than explicitly stated. Don't roll onto babies. Don't kick others. If you need to urinate at night, which everyone does, you don't go far from the group. You move to the edge, do your business, and return quickly. Children are taught these rules through correction and modeling. Sexual activity, despite the close quarters, somehow happened. Modern hunter-gatherer groups manage this through a combination of timing, late at night when others are asleep, discretion, and social conventions that everyone politely ignores certain sounds or movements. Early humans presumably worked it out similarly. The close sleeping quarters meant that everyone knew everyone else's business intimately. You heard if someone was sick, if a baby was fussy, if someone was upset. This lack of privacy created both social cohesion and social pressure. You couldn't hide problems. The group knew. But the group also responded, offering help, sharing resources, providing support. This group sleeping pattern persisted even as humans developed more sophisticated shelters. Even after fire was controlled, Even after structures were built, group sleeping remained the norm for most of human history. Private bedrooms for individuals are a very recent innovation, really only common in wealthy societies in the last few centuries. For the vast majority of human existence, we slept together. That experience, the vulnerability, the intimacy, the continuous awareness of others, the collective vigilance that shaped us profoundly. Our need for social connection, our fear of isolation, our ability to sleep through certain sounds but wake at others, our comfort with touch and proximity in some context and discomfort in others. All of this reflects the evolutionary context of group sleeping. When you feel lonely sleeping alone, that's not weakness. It's evolutionary memory. When you sleep better with a partner or a pet in the room, that's not dependence. It's your sleep biology recognizing the sleeping arrangement it evolved for. Group sleeping wasn't just about defense against predators. It was the foundation of human social life, reinforced every night through hundreds of thousands of years. We are, quite literally, built to sleep together. Chapter 4. Food Preservation. Now let's tackle one of the most fundamental challenges early humans faced. Food doesn't last. In a world without refrigeration, without canning, without preservatives, meat spoils within hours in heat, plant foods decay, and what you gather or hunt today might be rotting by tomorrow. So how did early humans manage this? The answer involves a combination of strategies, some simple, some surprisingly sophisticated. First, let's understand the problem scope. Early humans were omnivores. They ate both plant and animal foods. The balance varied depending on environment and season, but generally, plants formed the bulk of the diet, maybe 60 to 80%, with meat providing crucial protein and fat when available. Plant foods have variable storage properties. Some nuts and seeds store well. They're designed by evolution to remain viable for months or even years. Early humans definitely collected and stored nuts. Archaeological sites show caches of nuts, suggesting that humans understood and exploited this natural storage capacity. Roots and tubers store reasonably well if kept cool and dry. Some can last weeks. Early humans probably cached these too, perhaps in cool underground spots or in shade. But leafy greens, fruits, and many other plant foods spoil quickly. Heat, moisture, and microbes break them down rapidly. So the strategy for these was simple. Eat them when you find them. Don't try to store them. Consume them fresh. This created a pattern of continuous foraging. Almost every day, someone, usually women and children in most hunter-gatherer societies, would go out to gather plant foods. You didn't collect a week's worth and bring it back. You collected what you needed for that day and maybe the next. This continuous foraging actually makes sense. It distributes labor across the group, provides regular activity, and ensures variety in the diet. Different plants come into season at different times, so you're always looking for whatever is currently available and ripe. Meat is more complex. When you kill a large animal, say a kudu or a wildebeest, you suddenly have 100 plus kilograms of meat. That's more than a small group can eat in one sitting. But meat spoils fast. In African heat, meat can start going bad within 4 to 6 hours. So what did early humans do? The first and most obvious strategy, immediate consumption. When a large animal was killed, the group feasted. Everyone ate as much as they could. Children, adults, elders, everyone consumed as much meat as possible while it was fresh. This seems wasteful from a modern perspective, but it makes sense. Your body can store some nutrients from a feast, especially fat. Eating a huge amount when food is available prepares you for periods when it's not. Many traditional peoples describe cycles of feast and relative famine as normal, and their bodies adapted to handle this. The second strategy, rapid sharing. If your group kills more meat than you can eat, you share it with neighboring groups. This isn't altruism, it's insurance. Today you have too much meat. Tomorrow they might have too much. By sharing when you have surplus, you create reciprocal obligations. They'll share with you when roles reverse. This sharing network extended survival. No single group needed to successfully hunt frequently. If 10 groups each hunt successfully once per month and share their kills, everyone eats meat several times per month. The network distributes risk. Evidence for this comes from both archaeology, finding similar tool types and materials across wide areas, suggesting exchange networks, and from ethnographic studies of modern hunter-gatherers, who universally practice food sharing beyond their immediate family group. But there were also actual preservation techniques, even before fire. Drying is the most obvious. In hot, dry climates, meat laid out in the sun will partially dry, which slows spoilage. It's not as effective as smoking or salt curing, but it extends the meat's edible life from hours to a day or two. Early humans probably learned this through observation. Meat left in the sun doesn't rot as fast as meat left in shade. Over time, this becomes a deliberate practice, spreading meat on rocks in full sun, turning it periodically, keeping insects off it as much as possible. Sun-dried meat isn't delicious. It's tough. Doesn't taste great, but it's edible and nutritious. For people living on the edge of survival, that's enough. There's also a strategy involving burial. In some conditions, burying meat in cool sand or earth slows bacterial growth. It's not refrigeration, but it helps. Some groups cached meat this way, marking the location, returning later to dig it up. The risk is that scavengers might find it. Hyenas, with their incredible sense of smell, could detect buried meat. So this strategy only worked for short-term storage and required good hiding techniques. Another preservation method: acid. Some plants produce acidic substances. Wrapping meat in certain leaves that release acids as they break down can slow spoilage. This is more sophisticated knowledge that probably developed slowly, but evidence suggests some groups understood and used it. Then there's the unexpected strategy: partial putrefaction. This sounds disgusting, but hear me out. Meat that has started to age but hasn't fully rotted develops strong flavors but can still be nutritious. Many traditional cultures eat high meat that's been aged to the edge of spoilage. This wasn't a first choice, but in times of scarcity, eating slightly off meat was better than starving. Early humans probably had stronger immune systems and digestive systems than we do, better able to handle less than fresh food. Evidence for this comes from studies of modern traditional peoples and from our own biology. Humans can digest a wider range of foods in various states of decomposition than most primates. This tolerance probably evolved specifically because early humans often didn't have the luxury of perfectly fresh food. But the biggest revolution in food preservation came with fire. Once humans could control fire, everything changed. Cooking meat does several things. It kills pathogens and parasites, making the meat safer to eat. It breaks down tough proteins, making meat easier to chew and digest. And crucially, it extends preservation time. Cooked meat lasts longer than raw meat before spoiling. Smoking meat, hanging it over a fire so it's exposed to smoke, is even more effective. The smoke deposits compounds that inhibit bacterial growth. Smoked meat can last days or even weeks depending on conditions. Early humans who controlled fire could kill an animal, cook or smoke the meat, and actually preserve it for meaningful periods. This was revolutionary. It meant successful hunts provided sustained benefit, not just immediate feast. It meant travel was easier. You could carry preserved meat. It meant less daily pressure to find fresh food. But even with preservation techniques, early humans still faced fundamental limitations. They couldn't store large quantities for long periods. They couldn't plan months ahead. They lived in what we might call continuous provisioning mode, always aware of current food availability, always gathering or hunting, always consuming relatively quickly what they obtained. This created a very different relationship with food than modern people have. We can buy weeks or months worth of food, store it in refrigerators and pantries, forget about it until we need it. Early humans thought about food constantly because food security was never guaranteed. This is why sharing was so crucial. When you can't effectively store food, the best storage is social. Giving away surplus creates obligations. The network of recip. This is why sharing was so crucial. When you can't effectively store food, the best storage is social. Giving away surplus creates obligations. The network of reciprocal obligations becomes your refrigerator, your insurance policy, your safety net. Archaeological evidence supports this. At ancient human sites, we find evidence of communal meals, bone assemblages that suggest large groups ate together, processing and consuming animals collectively rather than individual families hoarding portions. We also find evidence of tools being shared or circulated. Stone tools move between sites, suggesting exchange networks. These weren't purely economic. They were social relationships maintained through gift-giving and reciprocity, with food being one of the primary gifts. This system of sharing had rules, though. Not rigid laws, but customs that everyone understood. The successful hunter got honor and respect, but not all the meat. Certain portions went to specific people, elders, perhaps, or the hunter's family, or those who helped with the hunt. The distribution reflected social relationships and reinforced them. These rules varied by culture but existed universally. They prevented hoarding, which wouldn't work anyway without preservation, encouraged cooperation. Your success benefits everyone, and created interdependence. You rely on others' success as they rely on yours. Modern hunter-gatherer groups show this clearly. The Hadza, for example, have elaborate rules about meat distribution. The hunter who made the kill doesn't get to keep it all. It's distributed according to kinship, need, and social obligation. Someone who hoards is socially punished through gossip, exclusion, or reduced future sharing. This social technology for managing food scarcity was arguably as important as any physical technology. It allowed groups to survive periods when hunting or gathering was unsuccessful, provided for those who couldn't provision themselves, children, elderly, nursing mothers, injured individuals, and created social cohesion that improved group survival overall. There's also an interesting gender dimension to food acquisition and sharing. In most hunter-gatherer societies, men primarily hunt, though not exclusively, while women primarily gather plant foods, though again, not exclusively. The products of these activities have different storage and sharing properties. Plant foods, gathered daily, tend to be consumed within the family unit. Meat, obtained irregularly in large quantities, is shared widely across the group. This creates different social dynamics and power structures around different food types. Some anthropologists argue that the regular, reliable nature of plant gathering, it's available daily and predictable, made it actually more important for survival than hunting, despite meat's higher prestige. Early humans probably survived more on gathered plants than on hunted meat, but the meat was shared more publicly and dramatically, creating social prestige for hunters. This gendered division of labor and its associated sharing patterns likely shaped early human society in profound ways, creating different male and female social roles, different forms of status and prestige, different relationship patterns. The woman who knew where the best tubers were and could gather them efficiently was valuable to her family. The man who could hunt successfully and shared generously was valuable to the entire community. But regardless of gender roles, everyone faced the same fundamental challenge. Food doesn't keep, and hunger doesn't wait. This created a kind of continuous present tense living. You dealt with today's food needs today. You couldn't plan meals a week in advance. You ate what was available when it was available. This sounds stressful to modern people used to planning and predictability. But for early humans, it was normal. The stress came not from lack of planning, but from actual scarcity when food wasn't available, period. When seasonal patterns meant lean times, when droughts affected plant foods, when hunting was unsuccessful for extended periods. During these hard times, the social networks of sharing became critical for survival. Groups with strong reciprocity networks, with wide connections to other groups, with established patterns of mutual aid. These groups survived. Isolated groups, or groups that didn't share effectively, often didn't. Food preservation and sharing weren't separate issues. They were deeply intertwined. The inability to preserve food made sharing necessary. The practice of sharing made preservation less critical. Together, they created a social and practical system for managing the fundamental challenge of nutrition in an unpredictable environment. And through all of this, there was the rhythm of feast and famine, the cycle of plenty and scarcity that defined early human existence. When food was abundant, you ate abundantly. When it was scarce, you endured. Your body adapted to this pattern, storing fat when possible, burning it when necessary, maintaining function even during caloric deficit. Modern humans living in conditions of constant food availability often struggle with weight and metabolism. Our bodies are still programmed for the feast or famine pattern of our ancestors. We store fat efficiently because that's what kept our ancestors alive during lean times. The lean times rarely come in modern developed societies, but our bodies don't know that. This is part of the legacy of how early humans managed food, not just the social systems of sharing, but the biological adaptations for handling uncertainty, for surviving on variable nutrition, for making do with what was available. As we'll see, the control of fire changed much of this. But before fire, early humans developed a complex system, part practical, part social, part biological, for managing food in a world where nothing lasted and tomorrow's meal was never guaranteed. Chapter 5. Night predators. We've talked about nighttime dangers in general terms, but let's get specific about the predators that shaped human nighttime behavior, because understanding exactly what hunted us helps explain exactly what we became. The apex nighttime threat to early humans in Africa was almost certainly leopards. This deserves a deep dive, because the leopard-human relationship was so influential on human evolution. Modern leopards still occasionally kill humans, around 100 to 200 people per year across Africa and Asia, mostly in rural areas. Ancient leopards were similar in size and behavior, and humans were more vulnerable then. Without fire, without effective weapons, without walls or secure structures, humans were ideal leopard prey. Leopards are perfect ambush predators. They're incredibly strong for their size. A 70-kilogram leopard can drag a 150-kilogram prey animal up a tree. They're nearly silent when they move. They have excellent night vision. They prefer to attack from above or behind, targeting the neck or skull. A leopard attack on a sleeping human would be quick, silent, and almost impossible to defend against. But here's what made leopards particularly terrifying. They're adaptable and intelligent. They learn individual behaviors. If a leopard discovered that humans in a certain area slept in a certain location, it would return to that location to hunt. If it successfully killed a human once, it might specialize in human prey. This created an arms race. Humans developed behaviors to avoid leopards, sleeping in groups, choosing defensible locations, staying alert, making noise. Leopards adapted by learning when and where humans were vulnerable. Evidence for this comes from multiple sources. First, we have those hominin skulls with leopard tooth marks. Second, we have genetic evidence. Humans have unusually strong fear responses to predator cues, suggesting heavy predation pressure in our evolutionary past. Third, we have behavioral evidence from modern peoples living in leopard country, who show elaborate anti-leopard precautions in their sleeping arrangements. The Hadza people of Tanzania still live in areas with leopards. Their nighttime behavior shows clear leopard avoidance patterns. Sleeping elevated when possible. Maintaining fires all night once fire is available. Never sleeping alone at the edge of camp. Teaching children to never wander at night. These aren't superstitions. They're practical responses to real danger. And they probably reflect practices going back tens of thousands of years. Lions posed a different kind of threat. Unlike solitary leopards, lions are social hunters. A pride of lions working together could potentially take down even a large group of humans, especially if they attacked during darkness, when human coordination and defense would be severely compromised. But lions are also more risk-averse than leopards in some ways. They prefer large-hooved prey zebras, wildebeest, buffalo. Humans aren't their preferred food source. A healthy adult human isn't particularly attractive to lions compared to a zebra. Where lions became dangerous to early humans was opportunistic predation. A child wandering from camp. An elderly person moving slowly. A sick or injured individual. Someone isolated. Lions would take these easier targets. The modern record supports this. Most lion attacks on humans involve vulnerable individuals, children, elderly, people alone. Attacks on coordinated groups are rare. Early humans probably experienced similar patterns. The defense against lions was numbers, noise, and aggression. A group of humans shouting, throwing rocks, presenting united front with weapons, this makes lions reconsider. Lions have to weigh risk versus reward. Attacking humans might work, but someone might get hurt. Is it worth it when there's easier prey available? For early humans, this meant that nighttime group cohesion was essential. You couldn't have individuals sleeping separately or wandering off. Everyone stayed together because everyone's safety depended on everyone else. Hyenas are often underestimated, but they were under serious threats. Ancient spotted hyenas were larger than modern ones. Some species reached 150 kilograms. Significantly bigger than modern hyenas, which top out around 80 kilograms. Hyenas hunting clans, sometimes 20 or more individuals. They're intelligent, persistent, and have incredibly powerful jaws. A hyena can bite through large bones with ease. And crucially, they're not as risk-averse as lions. Hyenas will mob and attack animals larger than themselves through coordinated group tactics. Hyenas are also bold around human camps. Modern observations show hyenas will come right into camps at night, stealing food, testing defenses. Without fire to deter them, early human camps would have been regularly visited by hyenas, probing for opportunities. The danger wasn't necessarily direct attack on healthy adults. It was theft of food, which in a marginal subsistence situation could mean the difference between survival and starvation. It was also predation on the vulnerable infants, small children, people who were sick or sleeping deeply. There are modern accounts of hyenas dragging sleeping people from their shelters. Without secure structures, without fire, early humans would have faced this risk regularly. The defense against hyenas was aggressive defense. Hyenas respect aggression. A human group actively defending their space, throwing objects, making noise, showing willingness to fight hyenas, usually back down. But if humans showed fear or passivity, hyenas would press the advantage. This might have selected for aggressive defensive behavior in humans. Groups that responded aggressively to nighttime threats survived. Groups that cowered or fled had higher mortality. Then there were the pack hunters, wild dogs, wolves in some regions. These are endurance predators that hunt through persistent pursuit and coordinated attack. Individual wild dogs aren't particularly dangerous to humans, but a pack of 20 can take down prey much larger than themselves. For early humans, the threat from pack hunters was probably relatively low for healthy adults in groups. Wild dogs prefer hooved prey, but for children, for individuals separated from the group, the risk was real. The interesting thing about pack hunters is that they're socially sophisticated. They coordinate, they communicate, they have pack structures with hierarchies and roles. In some ways, Their social hunting is similar to human cooperative hunting. This might have created a kind of cognitive competition. Early humans needed to be as sophisticated in their group coordination as the predators hunting them. The pressure to communicate effectively, to coordinate defense, to maintain group cohesion, this might have selected for increased social intelligence in humans. Beyond mammals, there were reptilian threats. Large pythons, which constrict prey and can absolutely kill adult humans. Crocodiles near water sources. These weren't constant threats like mammalian predators, but they were opportunistic dangers that added to the general risk profile of nighttime. Venomous snakes were perhaps more serious. Many venomous species are nocturnal. In darkness, you can't see them, can't avoid them. A bite from a puff adder, a cobra, a mamba, these were often fatal in pre-medical contexts. The risk from venomous snakes created behavioral adaptations. Careful movement at night, staying in cleared areas, checking spaces before settling down to sleep. These behaviors are still evident in modern peoples living in areas with venomous snakes. There's also evidence that humans developed some natural resistance to certain snake venoms. Not immunity, but better tolerance than other primates show. This suggests that snakebite was common enough to create selection pressure for resistance. All of these predator threats created what biologists call the landscape of fear. This is a concept from ecology. Prey animals don't use their habitat uniformly. They avoid certain areas, certain times, certain conditions where predation risk is high. They pay a cost for this, avoiding good feeding areas or good conditions, because they're dangerous. Early humans lived in a landscape of fear. Nighttime was high risk. Certain locations were high risk. Being alone was high risk. Being small, young, old, sick, or injured increased risk. These realities shaped behavior constantly. But humans didn't just passively respond to the landscape of fear. They actively modified it. By choosing defensible sleeping locations, by coordinating group defense, by maintaining vigilance, by eventually controlling fire, humans reshaped their ecological niche to reduce predation risk. This process of niche construction, actively modifying your environment to improve your survival, is something humans excel at. It started with simple behaviors like choosing where to sleep and evolved into building shelters, controlling fire, domesticating guard animals, and eventually building cities with walls. But before all of that, there were hundreds of thousands of years where humans were prey as much as predators, where nighttime meant genuine mortal danger, where predators shaped human behavior, human psychology, human evolution as much as any other factor. The fear of darkness, the comfort of groups, the startled response to sudden sounds, the ability to wake quickly from sleep, the instinctive fear of certain animals and patterns. All of this is evolutionary inheritance from those long nights when humans huddled together, listening to the sounds of predators in the darkness, hoping to survive until dawn. We are shaped by what hunted us. The predators made us what we are: social, vigilant, innovative, adaptable. They killed many of our ancestors, yes, but the ones who survived passed on genes and behaviors that made survival more likely. Every human alive today is descended from the humans who made it through those nights, who chose the right sleeping spots, who stayed with the group, who responded appropriately to threats, who survived to reproduce. The predators are still there in our genes, in our fears, in our behaviors. When you feel uneasy in darkness, that's them. When you feel safer with others nearby, that's them. When you startle at unexpected sounds, that's them. They shaped us. And we survived them. That's the foundation of human success. Not that we were apex predators from the start, but that we learned to defend against those who hunted us, and eventually to turn the tables entirely. But that transformation required one crucial innovation: fire. Chapter 6. Fire Discovery. The control of fire is arguably the most important technological breakthrough in human history. It changed everything: diet, safety, social organization, geographic range, and ultimately, the trajectory of human evolution itself. But fire didn't arrive as a single invention. It was a gradual process of discovery, experimentation, and mastery that probably took hundreds of thousands of years. Let's unpack how this happened and what it meant. First, early humans definitely knew what fire was before they could control it. Lightning strikes cause fires. Volcanic activity causes fires. Spontaneous combustion of plant material in certain conditions causes fire. Fire was part of the natural landscape, and humans observed it, experienced it, and learned about it long before they could create or maintain it. The earliest evidence of fire at human sites is controversial and difficult to interpret. There are sites in Africa with burned bones and sediments dating back 1.5 million years or more, associated with early Homo species. But were these natural fires that humans scavenged from, or fires that humans controlled? Most archaeologists now think the early evidence represents opportunistic use. Early humans found natural fires and took advantage of them. They might have kept fires burning by adding fuel. They might have carried embers from one place to another, but they probably couldn't create fire on demand. Thought this opportunistic fire use was still valuable. Fire provides warmth, light, and protection from predators. It can be used to cook food, but it's unreliable when the fire goes out and you can't make a new one. You're back to the dangers of fireless existence. The evidence for regular, consistent fire use becomes much stronger around 400,000 years ago. Sites from this period in Europe, Africa, and Asia show clear evidence of controlled fires, hearths, burned areas that were clearly maintained over time. The remains of repeated fires in the same locations date by 200,000 years ago. With early Homo sapiens, fire use seems to be universal. Every human site shows evidence of fire. This suggests that by this point, fire was not just occasional, but essential to human life. But even then, humans might not have been able to create fire at will. They might have been maintaining fires constantly, never letting them go out. Because starting a new fire was extremely difficult. The technology for making fire, actually creating flame from materials without an existing fire source, probably developed relatively late. Maybe only 50,000 to 100,000 years ago. This technology includes methods like the bow drill, the hand drill, the fire plow, and strike-a-light techniques using pyrite and flint. These methods are difficult. They require specific materials, specific techniques, significant practice, and even then, they don't always work, especially in wet conditions. Anyone who's tried to start a fire with primitive methods knows how challenging it is. So there was probably a very long period, perhaps 200,000 years or more, when humans depended on fire, used it constantly, organized their lives around it, but couldn't reliably create it. They had to maintain existing fires continuously, or scavenge from natural sources when fires went out. This created interesting social dynamics. Fire became precious. Groups that had fire would guard it. Fire tending became a crucial task, probably assigned to specific individuals who were responsible for never letting it go out. There are ethnographic accounts from relatively recent times of groups who couldn't make fire and maintained it continuously. When traveling, they carried embers in special containers, clay pots filled with smoldering materials, or hollow logs packed with slow-burning substances. Someone was always responsible for the fire. If the fire went out, it was a crisis. The group had to find another fire source, either from another human group, which might require trade, negotiation, or conflict, or from a natural fire, which might require traveling significant distances and waiting for lightning, strikes, or other natural events. This dependency on fire, before the ability to create it reliably, shaped human behavior and society in ways we're only beginning to understand. The discovery of how fire affected food was probably gradual. At first, humans might have eaten animals killed in wildfires pre-cooked by natural fire. This would have taught them that cooked meat tastes good, is easier to chew, and sits better in the stomach. Then they learned to deliberately cook meat in controlled fires. This had multiple benefits. It killed parasites and pathogens, making the meat safer. It broke down tough proteins and fibers, making meat easier to chew and digest. This meant humans could extract more nutrition from the same amount of food. Some researchers argue that cooking was so beneficial that it actually drove human evolution. The ability to cook food meant humans could have smaller teeth, weaker jaws, and shorter digestive systems compared to other primates. The energy saved in digestion could be redirected to growing larger brains. This is the cooking hypothesis, proposed by anthropologist Richard Wrangham. It's controversial, but it makes logical sense. Cooked food is basically pre-digested externally, reducing the energy cost of internal digestion. For an energy-hungry organ like the human brain, this could have been significant. Fire also expanded the range of edible plants. Many plants that are toxic or inedible raw become safe and nutritious when cooked. Roots, tubers, certain seeds. Cooking opens up new food sources that weren't available before. This meant that human groups with fire had access to more diverse, more abundant food resources than groups without fire. This would have been a significant survival advantage, but perhaps the most immediate, dramatic benefit of fire was protection from predators. Most animals fear fire instinctively. It's a natural hazard. Wildfires kill animals, burn territory, destroy resources. So predators have evolved fear responses to fire. They avoid it, stay away from it, won't approach it. A human group with a fire burning had a protective perimeter. Predators wouldn't cross the fire line. At night, a well-maintained fire meant safety in a way that was simply impossible without fire. This is hard to overstate. For the first time in human evolutionary history, nighttime could be safe. You didn't have to rely entirely on vigilance and group defense. The fire itself was a guard, tireless and effective. Modern observations confirm this. In Africa today, travelers and researchers maintain fires at night specifically to deter animals. Lions, leopards, hyenas, they won't approach a fire. The protective radius of a good fire is maybe 10 to 15 meters, but that's enough to secure a camp. For early humans, this must have been revolutionary. Imagine being able to actually relax at night, to sleep more deeply because the fire was protecting you, to let children sleep without constant worry, to have elders and vulnerable individuals safe. The psychological impact would have been profound. The constant stress of nighttime danger, the vigilance, the fear suddenly reduced dramatically. This would have improved health, reduced stress hormones, allowed better rest and recovery. Fire also extended the usable day. With firelight, humans could continue activities after dark. They could work on tools, prepare food, engage in social activities. The rigid division between productive day and dangerous night became less absolute. This extra time, this ability to be productive after sunset, gave humans more hours for innovation, learning, social bonding. Some anthropologists argue that firelight conversations, sitting around fires in the evening, talking, storytelling, sharing knowledge, was crucial for developing complex language and culture. The light from fire also changed human social dynamics. In complete darkness, you're aware of others through sound and touch. In firelight, you can see faces, read expressions, maintain eye contact. This enables richer communication and deeper social bonding. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups show that most storytelling, most complex social conversation, happens in the evening around fires. This is when cultural knowledge is transmitted, when social bonds are strengthened, when the group identity is reinforced. Before fire, nighttime was about basic survival, staying safe, maintaining vigilance, getting through the dawn. With fire, nighttime became socially productive, a time for connection, learning, culture. Fire also enabled cooking, which we've mentioned, but also provided heat for warmth in cold climates. This expanded human geographic range dramatically. Without fire, humans were largely restricted to tropical and subtropical regions, where nighttime temperatures were survivable without external heat. With fire, humans could survive in temperate regions, eventually even in Arctic conditions. Fire made clothing more effective by providing drying and warmth. It made caves habitable by providing light and heat. It transformed hostile environments into survivable ones. The archaeological evidence shows this expansion clearly. As fire use becomes universal, human sites appear in colder regions at higher altitudes, in places that would have been impossible to survive without fire. Fire was so transformative that some researchers argue it actually made us human in the fullest sense. The protected nighttime around fires is where human culture flourished, where complex language developed, where social structures became sophisticated. Whether that's literally true or somewhat exaggerated, fire clearly was a turning point. Before fire, humans were clever apes struggling to survive in a dangerous world. After fire, humans were on the path to becoming the dominant species on the planet. But controlling fire also came with costs and challenges. Fire requires fuel wood, vegetation, dung. Gathering fuel is labor-intensive. In some environments, fuel is scarce, limiting where you can maintain fires. Fire also requires constant attention. A fire left unattended can go out or can spread uncontrollably. Someone always needs to be responsible for the fire, feeding it, watching it, preventing accidents. There's also danger. Fire burns. Children and careless adults can be injured. Uncontrolled fire can destroy shelters, resources, even kill people. Learning to manage fire safely took time and cost lives through accidents. But despite these challenges, the benefits so overwhelmingly outweighed the costs that fire became universal. Every human group that survived into the modern era used fire. It's as fundamental to human life as language or tool use. The humans who couldn't control fire, who lost the knowledge or never had it, didn't survive. Fire-using humans outcompeted, outsurvived, and eventually replaced any non-fire-using human populations. By 50,000 years ago, at the latest, all humans everywhere had fire. And with fire came a transformation in how humans experienced night, how they ate, how they organized their societies, and ultimately, who they became. Chapter 7. Camp life. Once humans controlled fire reliably. Camp life, the daily pattern of settling in a location, sleeping, eating, socializing took on structure and meaning that continues to echo in human behavior today. Let's walk through what a typical camp might have looked like for early Homo sapiens in Africa. Maybe 100,000 years ago, the location would be chosen with care, applying all the principles we've discussed. Near water, but not so close as to risk floods or attract too many dangerous animals. On slight elevation for drainage and visibility. With natural protection, like rocks or dense vegetation creating barriers. In an area with good access to food resources, plants for gathering, game trails for hunting, the camp might be used repeatedly. Groups often had seasonal patterns, returning to the same campsites year after year. This meant they could invest some labor improving the site's clearing spaces, arranging rocks for windbreaks, creating designated areas for different activities. As evening approached and the group gathered for the night, the first priority was fire. Someone, probably multiple people, would gather firewood. This wasn't trivial work. A fire burning all night requires significant fuel. Estimates suggest a group of 20 to 30 people would need to collect 20 to 30 kilograms of wood daily for nighttime fires. Who gathered wood? Probably everyone contributed. but there might be specialists or designated individuals responsible for ensuring adequate supply. Children old enough to help would participate, learning what wood burns well, where to find it, how much is needed, the fire or fires. Larger groups might maintain multiple fires, would be built in cleared areas, with rocks arranged to contain them. The placement mattered upwind of sleeping areas to avoid smoke, central enough to provide protection and light to everyone, positioned to illuminate approaches where predators might come from. Once fires were established, attention turned to food preparation. If hunters had been successful, meat would be cooked. This was probably a communal activity. The meat didn't belong to one family, but was shared according to social rules. So the cooking and distribution involved the whole group. Plant foods gathered during the day would be prepared, some eaten raw, some cooked. Roots and tubers especially benefit from cooking, becoming softer and easier to digest. The evening meal was social. People ate together, talked, shared information about the day. What did you see? Where did you go? What resources did you find? This information exchange was crucial. It built the group's collective knowledge of the territory, resources, dangers. After eating, as darkness deepened, activities would shift. Toolmaking could continue by firelight, knapping stones to create sharp edges, working wood or bone to make implements. These skills required good light, so firelight extended productive work time, but much of the post-meal time was likely social. This is when storytelling happened, when knowledge was transmitted through narrative, when social bonds were strengthened through conversation and shared experience. Modern hunter-gatherer groups, studied by anthropologists, spend hours in evening conversation around fires. They tell stories about hunts, about encounters with animals, about ancestors, about the landscape, about social events. These aren't just entertainment. They're education, cultural transmission, social bonding. Children would be present, listening, learning. They'd hear about how to track animals, where dangers lurk, what plants are edible, how ancestors solve problems. This oral transmission of knowledge was the primary education system for hundreds of thousands of years. The fire created a circle of light in the darkness. Inside the circle was safety, warmth, light, community. Outside was darkness, danger, the unknown. This spatial arrangement, safe illuminated center versus dangerous dark periphery, became a fundamental human metaphor. Reflected in architecture, urban planning, and psychology, even today. As the evening progressed, people would gradually prepare for sleep. Children would be settled. Sleeping areas would be checked, cleared of stones and thorns, perhaps padded with grass or leaves, positioned appropriately within the group. Arrangement. The sleeping arrangement around the fire followed the patterns we discussed. Families together, children protected in the center, capable adults on the periphery. But now with fire, there was an additional element: positioning relative to the fire for optimal warmth and protection. Fire maintenance became crucial. As people settled to sleep, someone needed to be responsible for keeping the fire fed. This might rotate. One person stays up for a few hours tending the fire, then wakes another to take over. Or natural sleep variation might handle it. Light sleepers who wake periodically could add wood when needed. Letting the fire go out was dangerous. Without fire, the protective perimeter collapsed. Predators could approach. The temperature could drop uncomfortably. The psychological security disappeared. So fire tending was taken seriously. As the group slept, the camp would be relatively quiet but not silent. The fire crackled. People snored, shifted, sometimes talked in sleep. Babies woke to nurse. Children might cry out from nightmares. Adults might wake to urinate, check on children, add wood to fires. But compared to pre-fire nights of constant vigilance and fear, this was profoundly different. The fire allowed actual rest. The vigilance could be reduced, not eliminated, but reduced. The quality of sleep improved, that this better sleep had cascading benefits. More rest meant better cognitive function, better health, better mood, more energy for the next day's activities. Over time, populations with good sleep would outcompete those with poor sleep. In the morning, as dawn broke, the camp would slowly wake. Often, some people would be up before full dawn, taking advantage of the cooler morning hours. Preparing for the day's activities, mornings had their own routines. Breaking night's fast with remaining food. Organizing for the day's activities, who's hunting, who's gathering, who's staying at camp with young children. Making decisions about whether to stay at this camp or move to another location. These daily patterns, evening return to camp. Firelight activities, communal sleeping, morning dispersal created rhythm and structure for human life. This rhythm persisted across cultures and continues to influence us today. Even in modern urban life, we see echoes. The evening return home, the family dinner, the evening relaxation, the preparation for sleep. These aren't arbitrary. They're deeply rooted patterns that organized human life for hundreds of thousands of years. The camp was more than just a sleeping location. It was the center of social life, the place of safety, the home base from which daily activities radiated. It was where group identity was reinforced, where social bonds were maintained, where cultural knowledge was transmitted. Archaeological sites show evidence of this structure. We find organized spatial patterns, central hearths with activity areas around them, sleeping areas, tool-making areas, food processing areas. These aren't random scatters. They're structured use of space reflecting social organization. We also find evidence of repeated use. Camps that were returned to seasonally for years or even generations. Accumulations of waste and debris showing long-term occupation patterns. This suggests that early humans formed attachments to particular locations, developed territorial knowledge, created something approaching a home concept. The camp was also where innovation happened. When people had time, security, and community support, they experimented. Someone tried a new way of knapping stone and discovered it worked better. Someone cooked a new plant and found it edible. Someone made a new tool and it proved useful. These innovations were shared within the group, demonstrated, taught, refined. The camp environment, safe, social, with time for non-essential activities, was an incubator for human creativity and technological development. There were probably also specializations developing. Someone particularly skilled at making tools would be sought out for that skill. Someone with extensive plant knowledge would be consulted. Someone who told stories well would be encouraged to do so. These early specializations created social niches, giving individuals status and roles beyond just basic survival contributions. The camp was gendered space too, though probably less rigidly than in many later agricultural societies. Women with nursing infants likely stayed closer to camp. Men on hunting trips might be away for days. But these weren't absolute divisions. Flexibility was necessary for survival. Camp life also included maintenance work. Tools needed repair. Hides needed processing. Firewood needed collecting and stockpiling. These ongoing tasks filled time and provided structure to daily life. There was probably play too. Children playing, which is how they learned skills they'd need as adults. Adults engaging in games, contests, activities that built skills or just provided entertainment. Humans are playful creatures, and camp environments with safety and spare time allowed play to flourish. Music and art likely emerged in camp environments. Rhythmic sounds, perhaps from tool making, might have evolved into deliberate music making. Visual marks on tools or rocks might have become intentional art. These weren't strictly necessary for survival, but they enriched life and strengthened social bonds. The camp was also where conflicts were resolved. Disputes between individuals, decisions about group activities, responses to crises, these were handled in the camp environment, where the whole group could participate or observe. This public resolution of conflicts, this group decision-making, probably shaped human psychology and social cognition. We evolved to navigate complex social environments, to understand group dynamics, to communicate and negotiate. The camp setting, where everyone lived intimately together, was where these skills were developed and honed on as human groups grew more sophisticated. Camps became more elaborate. Simple shelters were constructed windbreaks at first, then more substantial structures. Storage areas for tools and food. Designated areas for specific activities. The camp evolved from a simple gathering place to a structured settlement. This evolution from temporary camp to permanent settlement was gradual and variable. Some groups remained highly mobile, others became more sedentary. But the fundamental pattern, a central location where the group gathered, slept, ate, and socialized remained constant. This pattern is so deeply embedded in human psychology that we recreate it even when not necessary. Modern camping, where people voluntarily go into nature and recreate primitive camp conditions, is enormously popular. Why? Perhaps because it reconnects us with this ancient pattern, satisfies psychological needs shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of camp life. The camp with its fire, its social circle, its patterns of activity and rest, was where humans became fully human. It was the physical and social space where culture flourished, where knowledge accumulated, where generations connected. And at the center of it all was sleep, the necessary vulnerability that all animals face, but which humans transformed through social organization and fire control into something safe, restorative, and even productive. Let's turn now to sleep itself, how humans actually slept, what patterns emerged, and why understanding ancestral sleep helps explain modern sleep patterns and problems. Chapter 8. Sleep Patterns. Modern industrial societies have a specific idea about normal sleep, roughly 8 hours, in one continuous block in complete darkness and silence, lying in a comfortable bed, alone or with a partner. But this pattern is actually unusual by human evolutionary standards. Early humans slept very differently, and understanding how they slept reveals why many modern people struggle with sleep. First, the duration. The idea that humans need exactly 8 hours of sleep is oversimplified. Studies of modern hunter-gatherer groups, the Hadza, the San, tribes in the Amazon show that they typically sleep 6.5 to 7.5 hours at night. Not dramatically different from industrial societies. But here's the key difference. They also rest during the day. Not necessarily napping, but periods of low activity, sitting, relaxing. When you add up total rest time, including these periods of low activity, traditional peoples might rest 8 to 10 hours total per day. Even if they only sleep 6 to 7 hours at night, this pattern makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. During the hottest part of the day in tropical or subtropical climates, vigorous activity is metabolically expensive and potentially dangerous. It makes sense to rest during midday heat, then be active in the cooler morning and evening. This is called biphasic or polyphasic rest, multiple rest periods rather than one single sleep block. Many traditional societies follow this pattern naturally. They wake at dawn, are active in the morning, rest during midday heat, resume activity in the late afternoon and evening, then sleep through the night. Modern industrial life, with its artificial lighting, climate control, and rigid work schedules, has pushed us toward monophasic sleep, one single continuous sleep period. But our biology might not be optimized for this pattern. This helps explain why many people feel tired in mid-afternoon. It's not just post-lunch digestion, it's a natural dip in alertness that corresponds to when our ancestors would have been resting. Fighting through this dip with caffeine and forced alertness might be working against our natural rhythms. Now let's talk about sleep architecture, the structure of sleep itself. Modern sleep studies show that humans cycle through different sleep stages roughly every 90 minutes. Light sleep, deeper sleep, deepest sleep, slow wave sleep. Then REM, rapid eye movement, sleep where most dreaming occurs. In a typical 8-hour night, you might go through 4 to 5 of these cycles. But here's what's interesting. These cycles don't happen smoothly and continuously. You actually wake up briefly between cycles, micro-awakenings that most people don't remember. In modern contexts, we're told these awakenings are problems, signs of poor sleep. But they're actually normal. Early humans probably experienced these awakenings more consciously, using them as vigilance checkpoints, brief moments to assess the environment, check for threats, add wood to the fire, then return to sleep. There's also fascinating evidence about segmented sleep, the idea that humans naturally sleep in 2 distinct periods with a wakeful interval between them. Historical records from pre-industrial Europe describe first sleep and second sleep with a wakeful hour or 2 in between. During this middle-of-the-night wakeful period, people would pray, have sex, visit neighbors, engage in light activities. This wasn't insomnia. It was expected, normal, even productive. Studies of traditional peoples without artificial lighting show similar patterns. When you go to sleep shortly after dark, around 8 to 9 p.m., you might wake naturally around midnight or 1 a.m., be quietly awake for an hour or 2, then sleep again until dawn. This segmented pattern might be our natural sleep architecture when not disrupted by artificial lighting. Early humans, going to sleep when it got dark with only firelight, would naturally wake in the middle of the night. This wake period could serve multiple functions: tending fires, checking for threats, quiet social interaction, or just restful wakefulness. Modern people who wake in the middle of the night often panic, thinking they have insomnia. They worry, get anxious, which makes falling back asleep harder. But if this middle-of-the-night wake period is natural, fighting it creates problems. Accepting it, resting quietly, maybe engaging in calm activities, this might actually be more in line with our biology. Sleep position is another interesting consideration. Modern humans usually sleep lying down on our backs or sides, but early humans sleeping on the ground, without beds or mattresses, would have had different options. Archaeological and ethnographic evidence suggests various sleeping positions: lying on sides curled up, fetal position, which conserves heat; lying on backs with knees drawn up; sitting propped against rocks or trees, which allows quicker response to threats; and in very cold conditions, sleeping very close together in a huddled pile. The hard ground might seem uncomfortable, but humans are adaptable, with padding from grass, leaves, or animal hides. And with bodies conditioned to it from childhood, sleeping on the ground was normal. Many traditional people still prefer sleeping on firm surfaces rather than soft modern mattresses. There's also the question of sleep duration variation by season. In tropical regions with relatively consistent day length year-round, sleep duration might be fairly stable. But in temperate regions with significant seasonal variation in daylight, early humans probably slept longer in winter, longer nights, and shorter in summer, shorter nights. Modern studies of people living without artificial lighting show exactly this pattern. They naturally sleep 1 to 2 hours longer per night in winter than in summer. This seasonal variation is suppressed by electric lighting, which gives us consistent light-dark cycles year-round, regardless of natural seasons. This suppression might contribute to seasonal affective disorder, SAD, depression that worsens in winter. Our bodies expect winter to include more sleep and rest, but modern life doesn't allow this. creating a physiological mismatch. Now let's consider social sleep patterns. We've talked about group sleeping for safety, but there are psychological and physiological effects too. Sleeping near others synchronizes sleep cycles. When someone shifts or makes sounds, others partially wake. This creates waves of lighter and deeper sleep across the group. At any given moment, different individuals are at different sleep depths, meaning someone is always relatively close to wakefulness. This distributed vigilance through synchronized but varied sleep patterns is an elegant solution to the watch-keeping problem. No one has to deliberately stay awake all night, yet the group maintains continuous partial awareness. Mothers and infants show particularly strong sleep synchronization. Co-sleeping mothers and infants have linked sleep cycles. They wake and sleep in coordination. This facilitates nighttime nursing without fully waking either party, and allows mothers to monitor infant breathing and well-being continuously. Western industrial cultures often emphasize independent infant sleep babies sleeping alone in separate rooms. This is actually unusual by human evolutionary standards. For most of human history, mothers and infants slept in direct physical contact. This wasn't just convenience. It had survival benefits. Infants sleeping alone are more vulnerable to SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, predation, temperature regulation problems, and failure to thrive. Co-sleeping, done safely, addresses all these risks. The mother's breathing and presence helps regulate the infant's breathing. The physical contact maintains temperature. The immediate access to nursing maintains nutrition. Modern research is revealing that what Western medicine sometimes pathologizes as sleep problems, frequent infant waking, inability to sleep alone, night feeding are actually normal infant sleep patterns that make sense in evolutionary context. Early humans didn't have the luxury of training babies to sleep through the night in separate rooms. Babies slept with mothers because that's what kept them alive. And babies are biologically programmed for this arrangement, which is why modern independent sleep training often feels like fighting against infant nature, because it is adult. Sleep partnerships also matter. Couples who sleep together often show synchronized sleep cycles. This can be mutually beneficial. Synchronized deep sleep, coordinated wake times, shared vigilance. But it can also mean that one person's sleep disturbance affects the other. In early human groups, sleep partnerships weren't just romantic couples. Extended families, friends, the whole group slept in proximity. This created complex patterns of sleep influence, multiple people's sleep patterns interacting and affecting each other. This social sleep environment had profound psychological effects. Sleeping alone is actually stressful for humans. Studies show that people sleeping alone have higher stress hormone levels, more difficulty falling asleep, and more disturbed sleep than those sleeping near others. This makes evolutionary sense. For hundreds of thousands of years, sleeping alone meant you were separated from the protective group, vulnerable to predators, at high risk. Our bodies treat solitary sleep as a danger signal, maintaining higher arousal and vigilance. Modern people who live alone often struggle with sleep. This isn't personal failing. It's biology responding to an evolutionarily novel situation, sleeping without nearby conspecifics as a potential threat. Dream patterns are also worth considering. REM sleep, when most vivid dreaming occurs, serves multiple functions: memory consolidation, emotional processing, creative problem solving. Early humans certainly dreamed, and dreams likely had cultural significance. Many traditional cultures treat dreams as meaningful sources of guidance, communication with spirits, insights into problems. This isn't primitive superstition. It's recognizing that dreams process information in ways that conscious thought doesn't. Early humans sharing dreams in morning conversations would have been sharing processed information. creative insights, emotional experiences. This collective dream sharing might have contributed to group problem solving and cultural development. The content of dreams is also revealing. Universal dream themes: being chased, falling, being unprepared or exposed, losing teeth. Flying, these might reflect evolutionary experiences. Being chased by predators was a real daily threat. Falling from trees or cliffs was a real danger. These experiences got encoded into our dream architecture. Sleep position relative to fire is another consideration. Too close, and you risk burns and excessive heat. Too far, and you lose the protective benefit and warmth. There was probably an optimal distance close enough to benefit, far enough to be safe, that early humans learned through experience. The fire itself affected sleep quality. The flickering light would have been present all night, unlike the complete darkness of modern bedrooms. But humans can sleep in firelight. It's dimmer than daylight. And the rhythmic flickering might even be soothing. The sound of fire, the crackle. The occasional pop provided acoustic background that masked other sounds. This could actually improve sleep by preventing every small noise from causing awakening. There's also the question of sleep timing. Without clocks, early humans synchronized sleep to natural light cycles. As the sun set and darkness fell, melatonin, the sleep hormone, would naturally rise, inducing sleepiness. As dawn broke, light would suppress melatonin, triggering waking. This natural circadian rhythm regulation is disrupted by artificial lighting. We extend our waking hours with electric lights, suppressing melatonin production. We wake to alarms rather than natural light. This creates chronic circadian misalignment, our biological clocks saying one thing, our schedules demanding another. This misalignment contributes to sleep disorders, mood problems, metabolic issues, and general poor health. Understanding that our sleep biology evolved for natural light-dark cycles helps explain why artificial lighting creates problems. The quality of sleep matters too, not just quantity. Early humans probably experienced fewer sleep interruptions than modern people. No phones, no traffic noise, no artificial disturbances, but also more natural disruptions, animals, weather, biological needs. However, the sleep they got was probably higher quality, in some ways proper darkness, except firelight. Natural temperature regulation, physical tiredness from daily activity, synchronized circadian rhythms. These factors create deep, restorative sleep. Modern sleep problems, insomnia, sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, chronic sleep deprivation, are partly diseases of modernity. Our sleep environments and schedules don't match our evolved sleep biology. Understanding ancestral sleep patterns doesn't mean we should all sleep on the ground around fires. But it does suggest that some modern sleep practices might be working against our biology. Maybe we need more flexibility in sleep timing. Maybe we need to accept middle of the night waking as normal. Maybe we need more physical activity to induce proper tiredness. Maybe we need better control of light exposure. The fundamental lesson is that sleep is biological behavior shaped by hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary pressure. Our ancestors' sleep patterns weren't random. They were solutions to real challenges that shaped our sleep biology. When modern life creates situations that conflict with this evolved biology, problems emerge. Recognizing this allows us to make better choices about sleep, working with our biology rather than against it. Chapter 9. Food sharing. We've touched on food sharing several times, but it deserves deeper exploration because it's so fundamental to human social organization. The way early humans shared food shaped our psychology, our morality, our social structures in profound ways. Let's start with a basic question. Why share at all? Many animals don't share food beyond mothers feeding offspring. A lion that makes a kill doesn't share with unrelated lions. It defends its kill. Why did humans evolve extensive food sharing? The answer involves multiple factors working together. First, food acquisition was unpredictable. On any given day, hunting might succeed or fail. Gathering might yield abundance or scarcity, depending on season and location. This variability meant that individual families couldn't rely on their own. Efforts alone, some days you'd succeed, other days you'd fail. But in a group, if everyone hunts or gathers independently, the probability that someone succeeds increases. Maybe your hunt failed, but someone else succeeded. If that person shares, everyone eats. Tomorrow, roles might reverse. This is risk pooling, and it works mathematically. Sharing reduces individual variance in food intake, creating more stable nutrition for everyone. Groups that shared effectively had lower mortality and better health than groups that did and T.2. Some foods come in large quantities that exceed what one family can consume. A large animal provides more meat than can be eaten before it spoils. Without preservation technology, that surplus is wasted unless shared. Sharing converts would-be waste into social capital. You feed others today, they'll feed you in the future. This creates reciprocal obligations. Food sharing isn't one-way charity. It's an exchange system creating mutual debt and obligation. You share because you expect others to share with you when situations reverse. But for this system to work, there must be memory and reputation. You need to remember who shared with you and who didn't. You need to know who can be trusted to reciprocate and who cheats by accepting but not giving. Humans have excellent social memory and reputation tracking. We remember who helped us, who didn't, who can be trusted. This cognitive capacity probably evolved specifically to support reciprocal food sharing systems. Gossip serves a function here too. When someone fails to share appropriately or violates sharing norms, people talk about it. Reputation damage is a powerful punishment in small groups where reputation matters for survival. The worst punishment in early human groups was probably ostracism, being expelled from the group. This was often a death sentence, as solitary individuals struggled to survive. The threat of ostracism enforced sharing norms without needing formal laws or police. But food sharing wasn't just pragmatic economics. It had moral and emotional dimensions too. Humans feel pleasure from sharing. Giving food to others, especially to children or those in need, triggers positive emotions. We also feel guilt when we hoard while others need. These feelings are probably evolved responses that reinforced sharing behavior. We also have strong fairness instincts. Unfair distributions, someone taking far more than their fair share, trigger anger and resentment. These emotional responses motivate enforcement of sharing norms. Experiments show that humans, even children, have intuitive fairness expectations and will punish unfair behavior even at personal cost. This willingness to punish unfairness, even when it costs us, helps maintain cooperative systems like food sharing. The specific rules of sharing varied by culture, but some patterns were widespread. Meat from hunts was typically shared widely beyond the immediate family. Plant foods gathered by individuals or families were sometimes shared less widely, kept more for family consumption. This might reflect the different characteristics of these food types. Meat comes in large, irregular quantities that benefit from wide sharing. Plant foods come in smaller, more regular quantities that can sustain a family without requiring wide distribution. Status and prestige were often earned through generosity. The hunter who shared most generously gained respect and social standing. The person who provided for others, especially for elders and children, was valued highly. This created incentives for sharing beyond just reciprocal obligation. Generous sharing increased your status, which brought other benefits: preferred mate choice, political influence, social support. But sharing had limits. You couldn't share what you didn't have. During times of genuine scarcity, sharing systems came under strain. Resources might be rationed more carefully, focused on core family first, then extended group. Some researchers argue that human moral systems are ideas of right and wrong, of obligation and justice evolved primarily from food-sharing contexts. The moral intuitions we apply to all sorts of modern situations might have originated in figuring out fair food distribution. It's not fair is something even young children say. Where does this fairness instinct come from? Possibly from hundreds of thousands of years of needing to distribute limited food resources in ways that maintain group cohesion and survival. Food sharing also created social bonds. Breaking bread together, sharing meals, is universally a bonding activity across human cultures. It creates connection, trust, friendship. The English word companion literally means one who shares bread. This bonding function made shared meals important beyond just nutrition. Even when food was plentiful and sharing wasn't strictly necessary for survival, people still ate together because it served social functions. There were also rules about who ate first or got preferred portions. Often elders got special treatment, they ate first or got choice cuts. This showed respect and recognition of their knowledge and contribution to the group. Children were also prioritized. Getting food into children ensured the next generation survived and thrived. Mothers with nursing infants had special claims on resources because they were feeding two people. Hunters who made kills often got special recognition, but not necessarily the best cuts. In many cultures, the hunter got less meat than others, a way of encouraging sharing and preventing arrogance. The skill of hunting brought prestige, but not material accumulation. Women who gathered food might control its distribution within the family unit. This gave women power and autonomy. They decided who ate what from the gathered foods. These gender dynamics around food probably shaped broader gender roles and power structures in early human societies. Control over food resources meant social and political influence. Food sharing also integrated new group members. When someone joined a group, through marriage for example, being included in food sharing signaled acceptance. Excluding someone from food sharing signaled ostracism or conflict. The sharing of particularly valued foods, meat, honey, rare foods, carried special significance. Giving someone access to these premium foods showed high regard and strengthened bonds. There were likely also different sharing rules for different contexts. Daily gathered foods might circulate within families with less formal sharing. Special occasion foods from successful large hunts from seasonal abundance might trigger more elaborate sharing protocols and communal feasting. These communal feasts served important social functions. They brought the entire group together, reinforced group identity, celebrated success, and created shared positive experiences that bonded the community. Modern human societies still practice all of these food-sharing patterns, though often in modified forms. We still share food to create bonds. We still eat together socially. We still have rules about fair distribution. We still feel moral obligations around food. Thanksgiving, Christmas dinners, birthday parties, weddings, these communal meals serve similar functions to ancestral feast situations. They bond communities, celebrate occasions, and reinforce social structures. When we share food with friends, when we bring meals to sick neighbors, when we feed our children first, we're enacting patterns that stretch back hundreds of thousands of years. Food sharing made us human in crucial ways. It required and reinforced cooperation, fairness, memory, reputation tracking, emotional bonding, and moral reasoning. These capacities, developed for food sharing, then generalized to other domains. The complex social groups, the sophisticated cooperation, the moral systems that characterize human societies. These might have their roots in the simple act of sharing food when our ancestors were hungry. Chapter 10. Shelter building. Early humans weren't always mobile nomads sleeping under the stars or in caves. Over time, They developed increasingly sophisticated shelters that provided protection, comfort, and eventually became homes in the full sense of the word. Let's trace this evolution because it reveals how humans gradually transformed their relationship with the environment from passive adaptation to active construction. The earliest shelter was natural caves, rock overhangs, dense vegetation. Humans didn't build these. They found them. The selection criteria were practical: protection from weather, defensibility against predators, proximity to resources. Caves offered obvious advantages: solid protection from rain and wind, natural defense, only one entrance to watch, stable temperatures. Caves maintained relatively constant temperatures year-round, and sometimes existing fire evidence if the cave had been struck by lightning. But caves had drawbacks too. They could be damp, dark, and cold. They were sometimes occupied by dangerous animals: bears, hyenas, large cats that had to be displaced. They were fixed locations, constraining mobility. Evidence from archaeological sites shows that humans occupied caves opportunistically, but not exclusively. Many early human sites are open-air camps, not caves. This suggests humans were comfortable in various settings and adapted their strategies to local conditions. The first true human-constructed shelters were probably windbreaks, simple structures made from branches, leaves, and rocks arranged to block wind and provide minimal protection. These required little effort and allowed mobility. You could construct a basic windbreak in an hour or two with materials gathered locally. Evidence for these early structures is scarce because they were made from organic materials that decompose rapidly. But we find post holes, stone arrangements, and wear patterns that suggest structured use of space, consistent with windbreaks or simple shelters. As humans became more sophisticated, shelters became more elaborate. Pole structures covered with hides or thatch, circular huts with frameworks of bent saplings, semi-subterranean shelters dug into the ground for temperature stability. One of the best preserved early shelter sites is Terra Amata in France, dating to about 400,000 years ago. It shows evidence of oval huts about 8 to 15 meters long, built with posts supported by rocks, possibly covered with hides or branches. There's also evidence of central hearths, suggesting these shelters were occupied long enough to maintain fires. The construction of shelters required planning and cooperation. You needed to select appropriate materials, transport them to the site, construct the frame, cover it adequately, and maintain it. This was collective work, often involving the entire group. Different environments required different shelter strategies. In forested areas, wood and leaves were abundant for construction. In grasslands, structures might use grass thatch and animal hides. In Arctic conditions, snow and ice could be used, though evidence for igloos only appears much later with modern humans in the Arctic. Shelter construction shows increasing sophistication over time. Early structures were temporary, built for a single season or less. Later structures were more permanent, used repeatedly over years, maintained and improved incrementally. This shift toward more permanent structures reflects changing human lifestyles. More sedentary groups invested more in shelter construction because they'd benefit from that investment over longer periods. Highly mobile groups kept structures simple because they'd abandon them soon anyway. The internal organization of shelters also became more complex. Early shelters might just provide a covered space. Later ones had designated areas, sleeping areas, food preparation areas, tool-making areas. Storage. This spatial organization reflects social organization. Families might have designated spaces within a communal shelter. Status differences might be reflected in who got the best positions: warmest, driest, most protected. Hearths became central features of structured shelters. The hearth provided warmth, light, and cooking facilities. It was also the social center where people gathered. Many shelters were organized around one or more central hearths, with living spaces radiating outward. The positioning of hearths required thought. Too close to walls risked fire spreading. Too close to sleeping areas risked burns. Too far from the entrance, and smoke couldn't escape properly. Finding the right position was learned knowledge, accumulated and transmitted across generations. Smoke management was a significant challenge. Fire produces smoke, and in enclosed spaces, smoke buildup is dangerous. It causes respiratory problems and can be fatal in extreme cases. Early shelters probably had poor smoke management, causing chronic respiratory issues for occupants. Over time, humans learned to build smoke vents openings at the top of structures that allowed smoke to escape while retaining heat. The tipi design used by Native American Plains peoples is an elegant solution to this problem. With adjustable smoke flaps that direct smoke out while maintaining internal warmth, shelter construction also demonstrates tool use and innovation. Cutting branches requires sharp stone tools. Securing hides requires cordage string or rope made from plant fibers or animal sinew. Maintaining structures requires ongoing tool use and repair. As shelter technology improved, humans could survive in increasingly challenging environments. Good shelters extended survivable temperature ranges. They protected against rain and wind. They reduced exposure to insects and parasites. This enabled geographic expansion. Humans moved into temperate and eventually Arctic regions, places that would be uninhabitable without sophisticated shelter and clothing. Shelter technology, along with fire and clothing, allowed humans to become a genuinely global species. There's also a psychological dimension to shelter construction. Having a structured, protected space provides psychological comfort beyond just physical protection. It creates a sense of home, of control over the environment, of safety and stability. Modern humans have a strong desire for shelter, not just protection from elements, but a personal space, a home. This might reflect hundreds of thousands of years of living in constructed shelters, developing psychological associations between structured shelter and safety. The evolution of shelter also changed human social dynamics. In open camps, everyone was always visible to everyone else. Privacy didn't exist. But with structured shelters, especially as they became more elaborate with internal divisions, privacy became possible. This enabled new social arrangements. Pair bonds could have private time. Individual families could have some autonomy. Conflicts could be managed through temporary separation rather than constant forced proximity. But shelter construction also had costs. Building and maintaining structures required labor, time and energy that could have been spent on food acquisition or other activities. In some environments, the benefit outweighed the cost. In others, it didn't, and humans remained in simpler camps. Materials also constrained shelter construction. In areas without suitable wood, stone, or other building materials, options were limited. Humans had to adapt their shelter strategies to local resources. Some groups developed remarkable innovations for difficult environments. In treeless Arctic regions, structures made from whale bones and turf. In desert regions, structures designed for maximum shade and air circulation. In wetlands, structures built on platforms above water. These diverse solutions show human adaptability and problem-solving ability. Humans didn't have one universal shelter type. They invented dozens, each adapted to specific environmental challenges. Shelter construction also became a marker of cultural identity. Different groups developed distinctive shelter styles, the shape, the materials, the construction methods. These architectural styles became part of cultural tradition, passed down through generations. Archaeological evidence shows continuity in shelter styles within regions, suggesting cultural transmission of building knowledge. This is early evidence of cultural, tradition-specific ways of doing things that distinguish one group from another. As humans developed agriculture and sedentary lifestyles much later than the period we're focusing on, shelter became even more permanent and elaborate. Structures lasted decades or even centuries. Villages and eventually cities emerged. But even in the deep past, before agriculture, shelter construction shows humans were transforming from passive occupants of natural spaces to active constructors of their environments. This construction ability, the capacity to modify environments to suit our needs, became one of humanity's defining characteristics. Every human shelter, from the simplest windbreak to modern houses, reflects this ancient capacity. We are builders, constructors, modifiers of our environment. We don't just adapt to conditions, we change conditions to suit ourselves. This began hundreds of thousands of years ago, when someone first arranged branches to block the wind. And it continues today in our most sophisticated architecture. The drive to build, to create protected space, to construct homes, that's ancient, evolved, fundamental to human nature. So there you have it, the story of how early humans slept, ate, and survived the darkness that defined their lives for hundreds of thousands of years. What strikes me most about this research is how much of our modern struggles make sense when viewed through this evolutionary lens. Your 3 are making, your discomfort sleeping alone, your craving for community meals? These aren't problems. They're echoes of adaptations that kept your ancestors alive. Early humans didn't just survive those dangerous nights through luck. They survived through cooperation, innovation, and profound understanding of their environment. They transformed vulnerability into strength by sleeping together, sharing food, controlling fire, and building shelters. These weren't just survival strategies. They were the foundation of human culture itself. Today, we live in unprecedented safety and comfort. No leopards stalk our bedrooms. No hyenas circle our camps. But our bodies and brains still carry the legacy of those nights. Understanding this legacy helps us make better choices about sleep, about food, about community, about how we structure our lives. We are the descendants of the survivors, the ones who figured it out. Their solutions live in us, waiting to be recognized and honored. When we align modern life with ancestral wisdom, we don't just survive, we thrive. That's their gift to us, earned through countless dangerous nights.